right, good morning, everybody. We're so excited to have you back. Per usual, we're going to wait until about 9:02 or 9:03 to fully get started and let everyone get in and situated. We do have a couple minutes if you need to get your coffee or your tea or anything, any beverages or snacks, go ahead. You have a minute or two to get settled in. All right, good morning, everybody. It looks like it's about 9:02. We're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to our virtual teacher training for this summer. We already made it through block 1, which is all focused on natural resources, and now we are moving into our block 2 that's going to focus on livestock. So we are excited that you guys are here. For all of our people who were with us last couple of weeks, welcome back. And for anybody who is new with us, welcome, and we hope that you enjoy our presentations. Just forewarning, or not forewarning, just we're going to talk about at the very end where you can sign up for the reflection, where all of that information is, and how to sign up for the reflection so that you can get mailed a box of all of the materials that you need to do our activities for next week. So keep in mind, week 1 of each block is an overview, lesson activities, very similar to our PD and the PJs that we've been doing. And then week 2, we're going to show you how to do a handful of our activities, and we want you to join us. So we mail you a box with activities and resources. And in order to do that, you have to be one of the first 50 people to fill out that reflection for Illinois teachers. And we will give you that information at the very end. So please make sure, if that's something that you're interested in, that you stay with us till the very end so that we can direct you into where you need to go to find that information. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. Our first activity that we're going to talk about is called Bacon Blackout Poetry. And this is one of our more recent activities that was created during quarantine. So we're pretty excited about this one. And we did highlight this last November during our pork theme for that month. And so if you're familiar with Blackout Poetry, this is a really cool way to either introduce poetry writing or to kind of solidify the understanding, or maybe if you have some students who are struggling, being creative. If you're someone like me, a student like me, I had a very, very difficult time trying to come up with my own poems. And so this is a really good way to kind of reinforce those ideas and start helping students understand what poetry is and kind of, get a feel for that. So what we're using is our pork ag mag. And so on our screen, we have 2 different snips. And the larger one right above the books is the original text from a section within our pork ag mag. And that section is titled Farmers and the Environment. If you're not familiar with our ag mags, they are full color, full page, agricultural magazines written around the 4th grade level, and they cover a variety of topics. And so they're all cross-curricular and have great information, great for using to discuss primary, secondary resources resources, great for teaching, all of the features of nonfiction text like bolded words, diagrams, headings, all of that stuff. So this is just a section called Farmers and the Environment. And then right over here, the one to the right is the Blackout poem that was created. And actually Chris created this. So basically what students do is you give them a text. It's already written. You're going to challenge them to read through it a few times. And so not only is this looking at poetry skills and learning poetry, but you're also teaching a variety of literacy skills. For example, close reading. And so this is, you have them read through a few times, pick out the main idea, start getting familiar with the text. You're having them read it multiple times, which is really important, especially for that comprehension. We all read something the first time, even as adults, and we get a basic idea for this. And so the more you read it, the more you're going to understand what the author is trying to say, what is actually the theme or the tone even for that text. But basically what they're going to do is read it a few times, get familiar with what's going on, and then they're going to take a black marker and black out any part that they don't want. And so over here on the right is the poem that we came up with, or that Chris came up with from this. And really all it is a summary of the overall theme in that text. And so again, like I said, this is a really cool way just to familiarize students with those poetry skills, help students who may not be as creative with coming up with something right off the bat, or just without having anything. It's not just a blank canvas. You're giving them something and having them become creative with something that was already written. And then a couple books that we wanted to highlight was Pigs by Gail Gibbons, and then which is just a fantastic book. We love Gail Gibbons. We love a lot of her books. And then Pigs and Pork, in the story of agriculture, which is nonfiction and just goes through all of the different features of the pork industry, and then the supply chain and all of that. Chris, is there anything you want to add to that?
No, I think that was great.
Okay. All right, so moving on, we do have some more pork, and Chris is going to go ahead and talk about Pig 05049.
All right, this is another really unique book, and so this is Pig 05049, and so this book is a look into all the different things that we have in our lives that come from pigs. So we often think about the meat products that come from pigs. That obviously gets the most of the focus of our attention, but there are literally hundreds of other products that are derived from all different parts of a pig that you might think of as waste products that we wouldn't utilize. But we found all these different ways to fully utilize that animal and to take full advantage of the livestock that we're growing and that we're raising. And so we're able to create a number of different products from that. And so this is a book called Pig 05049. And so the author actually followed a pig through the supply chain and kind of got a better understanding of all the different stages of all the different ways that the parts of the pig are used. So this is particularly relevant in Illinois. We're the #4 pork producer in the country. And so the pork industry is really, really important industry here in Illinois. So this book has special relevance here. So I'm going to show you, the author of this book did a TED Talk. We're going to show you a short section of it. We'll watch about 4 minutes of it. And we'll just give you an introduction into what this book is like. And she's going to actually show some of the pages from the book as well. So I'll let Stephanie go ahead and start that.
Hello, I would like to start my talk with actually 2 questions. And the first one is, how many people here actually eat pig meat? Please raise your hand. Oh, that's a lot. And how many people have actually seen a live pig producing this meat in the last year? In the Netherlands, where I come from, you actually never see a pig, which is really strange, because on a population of 16 million people, we have 12 million pigs. And, well, of course, the Dutch can't eat all these pigs. They eat about 1/3, and the rest is exported to all kinds of countries in Europe and the rest of the world. A lot goes to the UK, Germany. And what I was curious about, because historically, the whole pig would be used up until the last bit, so nothing would be wasted. And I was curious to find out if this was actually still the case. And I spent about 3 years researching, and I followed this one pig with number 05049 all the way up until the end, to what products it's made of. And in these years, I met all kinds of people, like, for instance, farmers and butchers, which seems logical. But I also met aluminium mold makers, ammunition producers, and, well, all kinds of people. And what was striking to me is that the farmers actually had no clue of what was made of their pigs, but the consumers, as in us, had also no idea of the pigs being in all these products. So what I did is I took all this research and I made it into well, basically it's a product catalog of this one pig, and it carries a duplicate of its ear tag on the back. And it consists of 7 chapters. The chapters are skin, bones, meat, internal organs, blood, fat, and miscellaneous. In total, they weigh 103.7 kilograms. And to show you how often you actually meet parts of this pig in a regular day, I want to show you some images of the book. You probably start the day with a shower. So in soap, fatty acids made from boiling pork bone fat are used as a hardening agent, but also for giving it a pearl-like effect. Then if you look around you in the bathroom, you see lots more products like shampoo, conditioner, anti-wrinkle cream, body lotion, but also toothpaste. Then, so before breakfast, you've already met the pig so many times. Then at breakfast, the pig that I followed, the hairs of the pigs, or proteins from the hairs of the pig, were used as an improver of dough. Well, that's what the producer says, it's improving the dough, of course. In low-fat butter, or actually in many low-fat products, when you take the fat out, you actually take the taste and the texture out. So what they do is they put gelatin back in order to retain the texture. Well, when you're off to work, under the road or under the buildings that you see, there might very well be cellular concrete, which is a very light kind of concrete that's actually got proteins from bones inside, and it's also fully reusable. In the train brakes, at least in the German train brakes, there's this part of the brake that's made of bone ash. And in cheesecake and all kinds of desserts, like chocolate mousse, tiramisu, vanilla pudding, everything that's cooled in the supermarket, there's gelatin to make it look good. Fine bone china, this is a real classic, because the bone in the fine bone china gives it its translucency and also its strength in order to make these really fine shapes like this deer. In interior decorating, the pig's actually quite there. It's used in paint for the texture, but also for the glossiness. In sandpaper, bone glue is actually the glue between the sand and the paper. And then in paintbrushes, hairs are used because apparently they're very suitable for making paintbrushes because of their hard-wearing nature.
All right, so that goes on. Just want to give you an idea of that. And so that's just a few of the, literally hundreds of different things that are in here. And so it's essentially an encyclopedia of this one pig and all the different things that pig can be used for. And so really fascinating, really interesting. It's just a cool book too, that it actually mimics the pig with the ear tag and all that. So a lot of different teaching opportunities with this book, and really just fascinating to see all the different ways that we're using products from pigs. In 2 weeks, we're going to talk about row crops. And I think a lot of times as consumers, we don't always understand all the different things that these crops that we grow right here in Illinois, they're used for hundreds and hundreds of products that we use every single day. And we don't necessarily appreciate that or even know that. And so we're going to talk a lot more about that in a couple weeks, specifically with corn and soybeans, all the different things that we use for those. So a lot of animal byproducts exist as well. So this is a good book to showcase that. A lesson that we have that goes with this is our indoor ag bingo. So you can see a picture of that. It's a PDF. It has all these different products that we would find in most of our homes. And then in the background of each product, there's an image of what animal it comes from. And so some of them are going to be more obvious than others, but again, a good way to do something at home to kind of see what products we have at home and where they actually come from, again, to help kind of educate us about that. So that's a fun activity. You can send home with students and have them do at home to see what products they have and kind of get a better idea of what animals those products come from as well. All the things that we mentioned here today are going to be on our blog under the teacher training tab. And so if you look at the Q&A section, I actually already posted that link in that section. And so if we bring up anything that interests you, you can, afterwards, you can click there, and we'll actually probably go to that page before we're done here today. And we'll show you how to get to that as well, as Stephanie mentioned before. So, all right, so that is PIG 05049.
All right. So moving right along, now we are going to start getting into poultry. So poultry, we know we've got lots of chickens and lots of eggs in Illinois, and you know, we just love them. So last year we had done our everyday ag, and Chris actually had raised chickens. He took us through, he ordered eggs, incubated them, took us through a whole video series called Eggs in Illinois, Eggs in the Classroom, and took us through embryology and all of that fun stuff. So I encourage you to go and take a look at that. You know, if you're going to use it in your classrooms, or even, you know, if you're homeschooling, or just to show your kiddos or your grandkids or your nieces and nephews, very cool and very informational. But we also, what went along with that was just 5 days, we just did all chicken week. And so we have a variety of activities that you can bring along when you're teaching about poultry. So the very first one then would be the chicken life cycle and hatching. So we're looking at the 21 days of embryology. What does it take once an egg is fertilized, all the way up 21 days until it hatches? And then what is that life cycle? How does an egg turn into a chick and then turn into a hen? And then how does that cycle start all over? So that would be an idea for the very basic life cycle, and that front part of the poultry. Then we can go into, you know, raising healthy chickens. What does it take? What do they need once they are hatched? Their environment is completely different. So they need certain lighting, certain, you know, temperatures when they're just eggs in order to even develop and grow. And then once they're hatched, they need a completely different environment to be able to be healthy and, you know, grow into a hen. And so you can kind of look at some different ideas of, you know, having students do that research and looking into, well, what is it that they need? What sort of bedding do they need? What sort of food do they need so that they are healthy? And then have them, you know, either draw a setup or even use, you know, different recycled materials to create a setup and explain what they need and why that's different than what they needed when they were incubating, when they were inside the eggs and developing. The next part then is to look at the eggshell, so the extraordinary eggshell. And this day's lesson was all focused on the eggshells. What are the eggshells made from? What is their purpose? And then we also included different activities where you could dissolve the eggshell. And look at the permeability, look at how different, particles can flow inside and outside. You can definitely relate that back to microscopic cells and, osmosis and all of that fun stuff. And you could even do something as fun as looking at its shape and doing, the classic parachute egg drop to look at the strength of that eggshell. What if you lay it on its side? Is it as strong on its side as it is up and down? And then of course, you can definitely look into architecture with that. We have certain buildings that are shaped certain ways, specifically for strength. And so you'll find that a lot of that is true about the eggs and the way the hens rearrange their eggs as they are sitting on their nests. Then looking at the feathers, they start developing feathers. What is the purpose of their feathers? Looking at, are they waterproof? Can they live outside? What do we use feathers for with not only just hens, but we're talking about, all sorts of poultry as well. Look at turkeys and everything. And then the incredible beaks. So looking at the shape of their beaks and why are their beaks shaped like that? Why are, chicken and rooster beaks shaped different than, a duck or even a toucan? You can, spread it out to other types of, birds and all of that. And then you can look into the different types of poultry for farming or for game and all of that. So turkeys, pheasants, all of that fun stuff. So a variety of topics that you can teach just by looking at our poultry within the ag industry. What are they used for? what is the process for this? What's the difference between the eggs that you buy at the store versus the eggs that the hens are sitting on and incubating, and what are the differences there? So lots of fun stuff that we have, and then some awesome books that go along with these that I encourage you to check out. And that is our poultry. Next week, we're going to talk about different activities that can go along with this, whether you are incubating eggs in your classroom or you're not incubating. Our activity next week that we're going to share will definitely focus on both of those topics. All right, Chris, all you.
All right, so yeah, Stephanie said a year ago, I don't know, stupidly decided to when students went home and couldn't participate in hatching eggs in the classroom, we decided, okay, we can do this at our house, and we'll make daily videos for that. And so if you go to our blog, which we keep referencing, so it's beyondthebarndoor.wordpress.com, there's a videos tab, and then there's a link on that videos tab for the Illinois Eggs in the Classroom videos. There's a page that has all of the videos in order. So there's 16 or 17 videos going through the entire process of hatching the eggs. Then we did a 1 month update, and then I just recently did a 1 year update to show you around where my chickens ended up and to give you an update on what they look like today. So it's been a fun project. It was initially a lot of work, but it's, backyard chickens are becoming more and more acceptable in a lot of municipalities and cities. And so you might see more and more of these little backyard chicken coops popping up. We have about 16 or 17 chickens right now. And so we have more than you probably want in your backyard, but they've been fun for us. And so I'll show you a little bit about that. Again, this is a backyard chicken coop. This is not a commercial egg operation or anything like that. This is just something that we're doing on our farm just for us. It's just for fun, I guess. So, all right. So I'll have Stephanie go ahead and play this video with our 1 year update.
Hey everyone, it's Chris with Illinois Agriculture in the Classroom. I'm standing here with my chickens. If you remember, last March when school shut down, my son and I hatched a plan to create an experience where students across the state could still get to see eggs hatching and enjoy the wonders of embryology and young baby chicks. And so we got an incubator, we got some fertilized eggs, and we made daily videos and uploaded them to the Illinois Ag in the Classroom page to allow students across the state to be able to enjoy that process. Those eggs did hatch, and we needed to find a place for them to live. And so very soon after, we started building this chicken coop. And here we are a year later, and I wanted to show you how our chickens are today and where they live. So this is a 1 year update for Illinois Eggs in the Classroom. All right, here's our chicken coop and our run. So you can see we have one rooster, and then I think we have about 15 hens. So we had 12 eggs hatch last spring. We did lose a couple chickens along the way, but then these barred rock chickens, these black and white ones, we added those. We bought those from another farm. They were just starting to lay. And so we bought those last spring and added them to our flock as well. So this is our run. You can see we have this fencing panel. We buried it in the ground, and we have these bricks around the edges to keep out any kind of predators for our chickens. So they're out here during the day. They eat, I'll show you their chicken feed. They also eat a lot of our kitchen scraps, and then all sorts of things that come off of our farm, we feed them in here as well. So they have a pretty diverse diet, even though they're inside this run. So here's our coop in all its glory. When we built it, we had a couple things in mind that we wanted to do. We wanted to build it ourselves. We wanted to design it ourselves, and we did all that. So everything here is completely of our design. And so we had a couple things that we knew from past mistakes with chickens that we wanted to do. One thing that was really important to us is that we wanted it to be raised up off the ground. The old coop that was here, we actually had to tear that down last spring. And it was never a very good coop for chickens. It was way too big, and it just didn't work out very well. So we tore that down, got it out of here, and we built this coop on the same site that the old coop was on. So we raised up this coop because we wanted to provide shade for the chickens during the day, which we found that they utilize a lot. We also wanted them to space that they could be out of the rain. If they wanted to be outside, we want them to be outside as much as possible. And so that allows us to give them a shelter in the heat of the day and also when it's raining. The other thing is it doesn't allow for any other kind of predators or animals to dig underneath and live underneath the coop, which is something we had issues with before. So that solves those issues. You'll see The first step, though, is a doozy. That's the one project that we haven't finished yet, is creating steps to go up into the coop. So that'll be a summer project. Another thing that we really wanted to do was to make sure that we had good ventilation. So you can see we have these vents that are on the side. We also have vents that are on both of the eaves on the front and the back of the coop as well. So there's lots of air movement coming through this coop all the time. In the winter, we still want air movement, but if it's too much of a draft, we can close these vents and block them off to allow a little bit less air moving through that coop. You can see they're well trained. They're used to us coming out and feeding them, and so they will literally just follow us all around the coop here, waiting for us to give them something to eat. All right, here's inside the coop. So you can see we have their water and their feed, so we check that daily and make sure we fill that up. We use straw bedding in here and make sure that stays nice and dry for them. These are their roosting bars, so this is where they sleep at night. And then these are the nesting boxes. We have way more nesting boxes than we need for the number of hens that we have, but we got this for free from a friend and decided we wanted to use it. The cool thing about this is it's a rollaway nesting box. So the chickens lay their eggs inside there, and then the eggs, you can see there's a couple eggs in here, they roll down, and so it keeps the eggs cleaner and allows us to easily collect them. Probably the most exciting thing about this chicken coop is this automatic door. One of my complaints with having chickens before was that you constantly needed to make sure that you were opening the coop up and closing it at the right times to keep your chickens safe. And, you know, it didn't allow us to go do a lot of things at certain times of the day. So this automatic door is really cool. So this is a light sensor right here. It's battery powered. And so essentially the door opens at a certain time right after sunrise in the morning. And then about 20 minutes after sunset every night, it closes. We also keep their feed right next to the coop in this trash can, so it keeps it nice and dry. So we feed them pelleted chicken feed, and then we also give them called chicken scratch. We give them this in the run. This is not a main part of their diet, it's more kind of a treat, but it's something that they really enjoy. This is way more chickens than we actually need just for our consumption. We get about a dozen eggs every single day from these chickens. So we give away a lot of eggs to friends and family. If you wanted to have a small backyard flock, you wouldn't need 16 chickens in order to have eggs all year round. But it's a lot of fun for us. It's not a whole lot of work. It's maybe 10 minutes a day that we spend checking on the chickens, filling up feed and water, and collecting eggs. So it's really not that much of a time investment. The biggest investment was just building this coop and getting them a safe place to live here. Thanks for watching my update of our backyard chicken flock. If you're interested in watching our Illinois Eggs in the Classroom videos from last spring, you can find all of those videos on the Illinois Agriculture in the Classroom YouTube channel.
All right, so we had someone ask if the chickens know to go inside with the sliding door, and yes, they do. I think in the last year, I think there's maybe been 2 or 3 times where a chicken has not got in before the door shut, but 99% of the time they go in well before it's dark and have had no issues with it. So when we first moved them into the run, they didn't understand. That first night we had to basically catch them all and put them in. And after that, they completely just trained themselves, and that door opens in the morning and they rush out, and then they know to come back in at night. So it's pretty cool.
I just love that. Oh my gosh, they just crack me up. And I know I've been waiting so long to see your automatic door because that was like a big thing in the fall. Like, we're going to get this automatic door. But I did want to add, this is an extension to what I had been talking about on the previous slide about some STEM activities that students could do. Designing a coop that's fit for a certain amount of chickens is important for their overall health and well-being. And so you could definitely have your students do a little bit of research. What do different chickens like, or maybe not necessarily like, but what do they need for survival, and what do they need in terms of the numbers of chickens that you would be raising. So you could have them design a chicken coop and look at all of that fun stuff, and then you could even have them build it out of different sorts of materials, recycled materials. There's a lot of math in there. Have them measure it all out, have them draw up blueprints, all of that fun stuff. And then you could get crazy like Chris did and have them design some sort of automatic door, or something fun like that. So there's a lot of really cool activities that you could do. There's a lot of inquiry, lots of STEM that you could do just by learning about poultry and what they need, for health and survival. And then again, by extension, what do we use chicken for? What are the byproducts? What's that supply chain look like once the eggs are laid and they go off to factory, all of that kind of stuff. So lots of cool activities that you could do looking at our poultry. So our next livestock that we're going to talk about is beef. So all of our beef cattle. We have some junior high level novels that I just want to highlight real quick. We have Little Joe, Heart of a Shepherd, and The Beef Princess of Practical County. They are all fantastic reads. Little Joe and Heart of a Shepherd, we're looking at our main character being male driven, so very good for our reluctant male readers. And then The Beef Princess of Practical County, we're looking at our lead character is a young female and, coming of age and, all of the friendships and relationships that come along with that. So all fantastic books. And then The Beef Princess, we actually did a virtual interview with Michelle Houts, which is also on our blog. We did a series of virtual author interviews that you can find on our blog. Lots of cool information about the writing process and publishing process that would be really cool for your students, especially if you're ELA and all of that. And then we are going to show you this video from the Darers, and they raise beef cattle. And so this was one of our virtual field trips. Again, we did a series of virtual field trips, one each month, that are all posted on our blog. So take a peek. Lots of cool farms that we went to, and lots of good information that, you may not have even known what was happening on these different farms. We have our basic ideas, but they go into depth, and they all did a great job. We really appreciate everything they did. So I'm going to show this video first, and then I'll talk about the lesson that I have here.
Hi, we're the Dares from Milan, Illinois, in Rock Island County, near the Mississippi River. We raise corn, soybeans, and beef, and that's what we're here to talk about today because May is Beef Month. As you're driving down the road, you may see a silo standing straight and tall in the air. Our bags are about the same size, but they lay on the ground instead. It's important when breeding cattle to make sure they have a balanced diet, so we combine haylage, rilage, and corn silage to make sure they have a balanced ration of feed. The bunker's filled with corn silage that gets scooped up by the tractor, poured into the mixer, and gets mixed up with everything else that is then put into the feed bunks for the cows to come and eat. We have these flexible gate systems that we can drive the tractor through without having to get out and back in. It's just a convenience factor, makes it easier on the person who's going out to feed. Now, why, you ask, are the cows so excited and throwing their food around? Well, it's kind of like putting a steak and eggs platter in front of a person on a Sunday morning. They're excited to be eating something so good. We left one location and went down to a second lot where we have calves who were preparing to wean from their moms. So we have a gate that only allows little babies in to feed on the special grain, the high fiber diet, allowing them to be prepared for weaning from their moms. You saw me take buckets of grain into what we call our market animals. That's cattle that we will send to someone else who will finish them before harvesting for beef. You saw us take a bale of hay in too, and that's the roughage part of their diet. They get to eat that whenever they want. We unwrap the bale, that's net wrap, that keeps the bale of hay together so we can get it in the bale ring for them. You see over there the land that's highly erodible. It's not good for farming. It's hilly, it's woody, but it's perfect for grazing cattle on. These are all animals that are bred, and they will be having babies in June. We put the hay bale in just to supplement the grass on the hillsides that they're eating. You'll also see a creek there, then we don't have to haul water in for the cattle. They can get water whenever they need it. Low-hanging tree limbs are perfect for them to be able to scratch their backs with. They love it. On a breeding operation, you'll notice the bulls wear rings in their nose as an identification tool. On their ear is a green identification tag, and we use that to ID who the specific cow is. Sometimes it's their breeding dates, their parentage, or sometimes it's just a pet name too. The baby calves you see in the pasture with their moms are ones that are born in the last couple months. They will stay with their mamas until they're ready to be weaned in another couple months. Our farm's a family farm. It takes all of us to make it work. Myself, my husband, my brother, and sometimes our daughter and her husband as well. Thanks for coming along on the tour, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
Okay, so let me pause this. All right, fantastic video. You guys, I just love animals. It just is so goofy to me to watch them, and I just love it. So if you're like me, and watching that video, there's tons of activities and lessons that came up in my mind just by watching this video. But first, I want to talk about the lesson that is on our screen. This is a nonfiction article style that we wrote this past year, and it's called Moving On Through. And this is really an introduction to rumination. So we're talking maybe 4th grade and above when you're looking at digestive systems, but specifically that the human digestive system, we are monogastric, is very different than the ruminant digestive system. They have the same functionality, digesting our food and nutrients so that we can function and have energy, and all of our cells and body systems are working, but the way to get that energy happens very differently, and that's based because of on the foods that we eat. So this is a nonfiction article. Again, you can highlight some of those nonfiction text skills like identifying headings and diagrams and all that, and then there is a little worksheet that goes along with it to pull in everything that they learned from the article. They can go back to the text to help them answer the questions. And then next week, the other lesson that goes along with this article is called Rumination Navigation, and we are going to do that activity. It's super fun. So we are excited for that, and that should just get you excited. You're going to be making some poop. So I hope that you're one of our first 50 to sign up, because we're going to just have so much fun next week with that. But I did want to point out some things that they talked about in the video. First of all, they grow all of their own feed there. So that's cool. When you're talking about farmers and all of the jobs that they have, not only do they have to understand the nutrition that they need for their animals, they have to understand how to raise livestock. They have to understand how to raise crop. Another thing is when she talked about grazing and the land layout, it wasn't good to grow crop. And that's another thing farmers have to take in consideration is the layout of their land, streams, areas where there would be a lot of erosion. And so a lot of different concepts that you can tie in just by talking about beef cattle and all that. And then some really cool things with the fence that opened. It was based out of convenience, but, thinking about coming up with different machinery, different equipment that might make things easier or more efficient efficient for farmers. That's a lot of stuff that you can do in your classrooms that is STEM based. Remember, when we're thinking about STEM, is there an issue or a problem or something that we could make easier or more efficient? That's what you start with, and then have the students work from there. So a lot of things you can turn into STEM based, but with farming equipment, we talked about the chicken coops. You can, create different things and really get them thinking about machinery and technology and all of that fun stuff. So that is all of our beef stuff. So we are going to move on to dairy now, and Chris is going to talk us through milk plastic.
All right, so this is another great activity here. This has got some definite science connections and could have some STEM connections. We'll talk a little bit about how you could turn this into an inquiry experiment here as well. So to make milk plastic, milk has a lot of different proteins in it. And so if you take a cup of milk, warm it up in the microwave for about 90 seconds, and then you add 4 tablespoons of white vinegar to it, it's going to separate what's called a casein protein. Casein is Latin for cheese. And so it separates this protein out. You have a lot of liquid and then this goopy stuff that is this casein protein. If you take that, I've used cookie cutters with it. You can see I have 2 here. So if you form it into whatever shape you want, I use cookie cutters as molds. And then you let it dry for a couple of days and see if you can hear this. It makes hard plastic. And so there's a lot of cool things you could do with this. You could drill a hole in it. Students could make it into an ornament. They can make it into a necklace. You could use all sorts of different shapes. They can make little toys out of it. So lots of cool things they could do there. You can also add food coloring to it as you mix it up. And so you can have different colors of plastic as well. So a really cool activity to do. But if we think about, okay, how can we turn this into an inquiry experiment? How can we get students to change some variables to play around with this? We could try different types of milk, right? Does whole milk have a different amount of this casein protein than, say, skim milk? We could try different types of vinegars to see if they affect the milk differently. We could try milk at different temperatures, right? So there's all sorts of different ways that we could manipulate this to have students do an experiment with it and then try to come up with, a plan for how the best way to make this milk plastic. So that's our milk plastic lesson. There's another website I want to point out called whereismymilkfrom.com. And Stephanie, if you want to stop sharing for a moment here, I'm going to share my screen here. All right, so this is whereismymilkfrom.com. And you can see here there's a spot for a dairy code. And so I have a couple different milk products here with me. And all dairy products have a code on them that help you see where it's from. And so I can look here. This is a Prairie Farms milk jug that I got here in Bloomington Normal here this past week. And it's the code on top says 26306. So if I put that into whereismymilkfrom.com, it tells me that this milk came from Battle Creek, Michigan. All right, so I have a Dean's milk jug here. I can do the same thing. The code here is 17-37. All right, this one came from Harvard, Illinois. And then I've got a third one. This is Horizon Organic Milk Jug. And this one came from, let's see here, it's 36-4016. Now remember, all these milks were in the same store, right? So when we start thinking about supply chain, yeah, here we go. This one's from Elma, New York. So when we start thinking about supply chain and where our food comes from, milk is a really interesting way to show that with students because milk is homogenized. It's mixed together from various locations and then bottled and distributed. And so there's lots of really cool connections with that. Even the milk that students are drinking at school, the milk carton that they're drinking out of could have been from a completely different place as the milk carton as the kid next to them. So it's a really great way to show kids where that comes from. Also, when you think about eating locally, milk is one of the products that, maybe we can trace, as a local product for a lot of areas of our state, more so than maybe any other fresh food that we would eat. And so there's dairies all over the state. Prairie Farms is a, very popular brand, one that's familiar. We have a Prairie Farms plant just up the road in Peoria. So there's lots of dairies around that are supplying milk. That being said, Illinois is a milk importer. We don't produce enough milk here in Illinois to feed everyone. And so we bring in milk from other places, hence why we've got some of these other milks that came from other places as well. Another interesting thing to talk about with milk is this idea of pasteurization. So you think, okay, Louis Pasteur invented pasteurization in the 1860s. The process today is still very similar, albeit we've got much more advanced food safety handling and technologies that go with it. But essentially the process of heating the milk up and then cooling it right back down again to kill any potentially harmful bacteria, it's still the same concept we use today. So you'll see on milk that it says that it's been pasteurized. Now, some milk you might notice has a different terminology on it, and it says it's ultra pasteurized, as this Prairie Farms milk is. So if you look at the expiration date on ultra pasteurized milks, like I bought these last week, and this Prairie Farms milk, the expiration date, it says it's best by August 7th. Now think about milk in your fridge. If you ever had milk that you kept in your fridge for 3 months, right? This Horizon organic milk, the expiration date is not till September. You'll also know that these ultra pasteurized milk products, they refrigerate after opening. So essentially by ultra pasteurizing, in other words, heating it up even further, we kill even more of those potentially harmful bacteria and create essentially a shelf stable product. And so if you think about why do we do that? Well, again, when we think about consumer wants and needs and supply chain, we're trying to distribute these things all across the country. And so we need a product that lasts longer, can be able to get to consumers even more easily. I always try to get an organic milk because that's a good example too. We have fewer organic dairies. That's very much a niche market. And so organic milk typically has to travel much further in order to get to the consumer that's buying it. And so like this one came from New York because it needs to be ultra pasteurized to allow for the fact that it's going to take a lot longer to get to where it needs to be. So again, lots of really cool scientific connections there and things you can do with that. And it's just a process that we kind of take for granted. We don't think about the processes that go into helping make our food supply safe. And milk's got some really interesting things that go along with that. The other thing I'll point out with milk here, finally, as the pandemic started a year ago, milk was one of those things that was in a shortage, along with flour and a few other products. We all probably went to the store and saw the cases were empty of milk. You might have also seen images or videos on Facebook or on the news or things where farmers were dumping milk into their fields. And I'm sure some of us wondered, why on earth are they doing that? There's a milk shortage. Why would you throw away this perfectly good milk? Well, there wasn't a milk shortage. We had the same amount of milk we always had. The problem was supply chain. And again, this is something that a lot of us take for granted. But if you think about how our buying changed a year and a half ago, all of a sudden schools weren't buying milk cartons for their students, right? We weren't going to restaurants where they buy milk in these big 2 or 3 gallon bags. We all wanted milk in gallon jugs, right? We weren't buying milk like this anymore. And so these processing plants couldn't just turn on a dime and change their production. They needed time to be able to adjust to do that. So it was a supply chain issue, not a actual quantity of food issue. And so again, a good way to talk to students about not only what happens at the farm to produce the food, but all the different steps that go into getting that food to our tables. I think a lot of us take that for granted and don't fully understand that. So it's a really complex system that allows us to eat a lot of these foods year round and have the safest, freshest food supply that civilization has ever had in human history, but it's really complicated. And as we saw a year ago, disruptions in it can cause major issues. And so again, a good way to kind of illustrate that to students and show them milk is a really good way to talk about those things and talk about how food actually gets to our table. So that's my stuff on milk here. We've got a couple good books here. Clarabelle is a really good one, as well as Tales of the Dairy Godmother. We've done a lot of work with both those books, so we highly recommend both of those.
All right, and I do just want to add on our lessons, any of our lessons that are similar to this, that talk about like a chemical change or a physical change, or there's some science behind it. We do have a teacher resources page for all of our lessons. Not only do they give extension ideas or how to differentiate in your classroom, but they do offer a background information. So for this lesson specifically, Chris had mentioned the casein protein, and we do have background information on there about that protein and its interaction with the vinegar. So that way you don't have to do a ton of research before you do an activity like this. And then that way, if you're doing 4th, 5th, upper grades, you do have that background where you can talk about it. And so I just wanted to point that out. There we go. Okay.
All right, last thing I'll talk about with dairy, we have a couple great recipes that you could do in the classroom. These are both Ag in the Classroom classics, and we've got these recipe cards that we came up with last year to make that even easier for you. So we've got butter in a jar, where you take whipping cream in a small jar, and then students are going to just shake that thing longer than you thought humanly possible. But if they shake it long enough, they're going to create butter in that jar. So that's a really fun one. A great group work activity, so they can kind of share those shaking duties and they'll get tired of it. But a really cool way, again, to show students how we take this product that comes from the cow and then turn it into something that we eat every single day. Another good connection we can make with the Pig 05049, right? This idea that sometimes we have things like low-fat butter. We've got other products that have been added that are maybe come from other animals as well. Our ice cream in a bag is a really fun one. Again, you're going to take whipping cream. You're going to have a couple Ziploc bags. We highly recommend duct taping them shut in addition to sealing them, just as a little bit of an insurance policy there. And students are going to shake those up with ice and salt. And in just a few minutes are going to create ice cream. Another really fun one, and nice too for you can cut the corner off the bag and serve it up to everybody. So it's a really easy way to feed everybody with this stuff that they made in there as well. So those are 2 dairy recipes: butter in a jar and ice cream in a bag.
We also have, if you visit our YouTube channel, we do have a video of ice cream in a bag. So then if you just want, some reassurance of how the process works, Chris does a great job in explaining and, showing the shaking and all of that fun stuff. So feel free to check out our YouTube channel. We've got a lot of fun stuff on there.
Yeah, we've got a butter in a jar one on there as well. So yeah, that's a good point. All right, so thing we wouldn't maybe think of as livestock, especially here in Illinois, you don't hear about this much, but we want to talk about this because this is an excellent book by Kate Messner called Chirp, and it's about a cricket farm. And so the main character, the middle school girl, and she goes to help her grandma for the summer run her cricket farm that's being sabotaged by someone. And so a really great coming of age story. There's some really excellent social emotional learning connections with this book. I would say it's definitely probably 5th grade and up level chapter book. I don't think I would probably want to teach it below 5th grade for sure. It's an excellent book, one of the best books I've read this year, and pretty cool connections to thinking about different ways to get protein into your diet. And so entomophagy here, you can see the practice of eating insects. This is becoming more and more of a trend. This has been part of various cultures throughout history. And is becoming more widely utilized in a lot of different cultures as well. And so you can buy, if you go to this website, edibleinsects.com, you can buy flavored crickets in every flavor you could possibly imagine. So there's all sorts of different products that we can get from insects. They are extremely efficient to raise. They use very little water and feed and other resources in order to reproduce, and they have a really, really high protein content. So there's a lot of actually really interesting health benefits to eating some of these insects as well and adding them to our diet. And even when you think environmentally, they're really low impact animals. And so it's pretty fascinating. It's definitely a trend in some areas, but something that might be interesting for your students to think about and definitely connect well with this book, Chirp, here. So that's our little plug for insect farming. And again, if you're looking for a great book to read this summer, Chirp is definitely a really good one.
All right, so we are almost finished with our presentation. I can't believe that hour went by so quickly. So our Ag Mags and Ag Ventures we have available. I talked about the Ag Mags earlier, and so our Ag Mags that we encourage you to pair with any of these activities, of course, are our Ag Mags that highlight livestock. So we have horse, poultry, dairy, beef, and pork. Next week, we will talk a little bit more about horse, but the cool thing with horses is that we don't necessarily see them as a part of the ag industry, but we still have a lot of uses for them. And the Horse Ag Mag does a great job with not only talking about the history of horses, but their current day uses. And again, if you are new with us, we have just recently created what we call Ag Ventures. And it's a 1-page worksheet that goes along with the Ag Mag. And so again, using nonfiction text, this is we thought it was a fun way to start to get them to, go through and work with those non-fiction text features. And they're all cross-curricular, even though if you notice when we're sharing our activities, they have a little square and a symbol in the top left-hand corner. Some of them have one, some of them have two. And so they represent different content areas. All of our stuff is cross-curricular, but we try to highlight what is the most focused of that page. And so like the Ag Venture with Horse, there's a lot of social studies and ELA, where with the Ag Venture with Pork, we're looking more towards science and ELA. But that doesn't mean that there's no social studies, or art or anything with the pork, and all of the other ones. They're all one page. We try to include some writing. We try to include some sort of diagram, or where they're working with different, like the Ag Venture with Dairy, we have some different labels and nutrition. And if you notice, we try to incorporate something fun, but it's not just, here's some fun. We're still making them work. And so like with this word search, in order to search for the words, they first have to answer the question. And the question then, when they answer the question, is then they write down the word, and that's the word that has to be found. Now, with all of these, there is an answer key included. And so we have had so much fun creating these, and we're excited to have these to offer to you. And these will also all be on all of the blog, which we will show you. I think the last few times we might have had some confusion. So we are going to take just a moment at the end to show you the blog and where you can find all of this stuff. Really quickly, we do have some upcoming events for our new visitors with us today. We do have our summer book club, which Chris will be hosting. So go to IAITC.co/book club to find more information about that. We are going to be looking at junior high level novels. They could be also used in senior high. The Thing About Luck and Flip the Bird. So we're looking at wheat harvesting and then falconry. You get to choose one book and then do a one session book club with that. And so you will, Chris, what is the original date? August?
It's the first session is mid-July, I think July 14th or 15th. And yeah, you'll pick a book at that point. We'll introduce ourselves. We'll talk about the books. You'll pick a book, and then that same night, I will mail you whatever book you choose for free. And then you'll have 3 weeks then. Then the first week of August, we'll have 2 different nights, one night for Thing About Luck and one night for Flip the Bird to come on and talk about the book. We'll give you some reading guides, incorporate that into your classroom, and hopefully give you a new idea for the next school year. And that ties in with the workshop that Stephanie's leading in early August also.
Yep. So then the other workshop is we have 2 grants available. We have our classroom project grant and then our classroom book grant. So on August 5th, at 10 o'clock in the morning, join me for a workshop, and I'm going to go into a lot more detail about what each grant is. I'm going to give you a series of lessons that would pair along nicely with the books in the book grant. I'm going to give you ideas from our past winners and how they filled out their grant application and what their projects were and all of the details. So start thinking about some different stuff. All of the information is on our blog. So if you go to IAITC.co/get-a-grant, you can read some more information about it there. Sign up for the workshop just to see if you have some ideas for your classroom for the spring semester. Both of them, would be planned for the spring semester. Just join us just to see if that's, what we're looking for, and then we will grant you money and materials for all of that stuff. So please join me on August 5th. All of the information is there, and we will be on our social media, Instagram, Facebook. We will be continuing to, post reminders about these upcoming events over the next few weeks. So make sure you're following us so that we can remind you. This is where our reflection is. We're going to take you there just to show you. We do have the reflection already up for both weeks. You want to make sure you click on the very top one, 6/22. That's today's date. That is where you're going to click for the first 50 people who fill out that reflection. Chris and I are going to hang out at the office for a few hours, and then we will get those in the mail today. And then if you want to sign up, we have 2 more blocks. The third block, the first 2 weeks in July, are all going to be on row crops. Lots of cool stuff. I know you're like, oh gosh, corn and soybeans, but we've got a lot of really cool things, lots of cool activities. So if you sign up for that, you can do so right here for the sign up. And then of course, we also have a link for the book and get a grant workshop. Real quick, just as a reminder, please follow us for all of our resources. We've got a lot of cool stuff that we're constantly posting. You know, just if you kind of out of sight, out of mind, but you're scrolling on after a hard day's work, and then we might pop up in your feed and remind you or give you some good ideas to use for your classroom. So with that, I'm going to stop. Chris, do you want to share the blog and all of that and show them where to go? Oh, you're muted, I think.
There we go. Sorry about that. Here's the homepage for the blog. Again, our website is agintheclassroom.org. At the very top of that is a link to get to the blog here. If you want to sign up for our teacher trainings, that's right here on the homepage. And then if you go to the teacher training tab, right here, you can see here is the page for our livestock sessions. And here's everything from today and also for next week. And so reflection forms, signups, we'll have the recorded versions here, all the lesson plans, Ag Ventures, all the videos we showed, everything. So everything is linked there. So if you have any questions, odds are you can find it right there on that page. Again, beyondthebarndoor.wordpress.com under teacher training. The video things we talked about earlier, those are all there under the videos tab. And there's lots of other stuff on the blog here as well. So feel free to take advantage of that and look around while you're there. All right. I think that's all we have. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. It's always we're always so excited to see how many people join us each Tuesday morning. And so thanks for spending your morning with us. And yeah, fill out that reflection. We will get your box in the mail to you today. And we're really excited about next week. I think you're gonna really like the lessons that we're gonna show you.
All right, well, with that, enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. If you are in Central Illinois, it is absolutely gorgeous outside. So please take advantage of that. Get outside, go to parks, mow your lawn like I will be later today. But thank you again for joining us, and we hope to see you next Tuesday. Bye-bye, everybody.
See you guys. We'll hang out for just a second here. If you've got any questions, put them in the Q&A and we can answer those questions.